You know, there are lots of ways to catch walleyes, jigging, trolling, casting slip bobbers, whatever the case may be. But one of the fastest and easiest ways, and probably the simplest ways to catch walleye no matter where they live, is a simple night crawler and a crawler harness. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about one specific piece of the crawler harness, though. We're going to talk about the spinner blade, why it's important, and why you need to understand different factors to pick the right blade every time that you're fishing. So stay tuned. Let's dig into the science of spinner blades for catching walleye. So spinner blades are one of those things that I think are really overlooked. It's another one of those little details that can make a big difference. And we're going to talk mostly about shape today and what that shape actually means. So why is shape important when we look at a spinner blade? Well, shape is going to do a couple things. Number one, different shapes and different sizes are going to imitate different sizes and types of bait fish. Some blades are long and skinny to imitate long, skinny bait fish. Some blades are short and fat to imitate short and fat bait fish, just like we pick our crankbait selection. The other thing that happens as we start to look at the shape of a spinner blade is the frequency or the vibration changes with each different shape. The amount of flash we get changes with each amount of shape. How walleyes can actually see and feel the blade with those two factors actually changes with shape. And the shape can really determine how fast the spinner blade is going to spin and how fast you need to go to get the proper rotation and the proper vibration and flash out of a spinner blade. So spinner blade shape is extremely important, and picking the right one based on how, when, and where you're fishing is the key to catching more fish every time you're out pulling crawler harnesses. Let's talk about each of the individual blade shapes here in detail and understand why each shape is important. All right, the first blade shape we're going to talk about is probably the most popular, and that is a Colorado blade. It's kind of a fatter blade. It's probably the most popular blade. I see it all the time on pre-tied harnesses. It's really popular. I would say if anglers have one blade shape in their box, it's probably a Colorado blade. Just really, really popular on pre-tied harnesses, popular on jig spinners, just a popular blade. Now, it is a fatter blade, so which means it makes a lot of vibration. It spins around your shaft at about a 45-degree angle around your harness line, which means it makes a lot of vibration. Now, because it makes a lot of vibration, it turns fairly slow, right? It's one of the slowest turning blades, but so that means it doesn't give off a lot of flash. So it's a great choice. Dirty water, stained water, nighttime fishing, anytime you're trying to use the fish's sense of feel, their lateral line, that thump, 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 that low frequency, anytime you're trying to use that to attract fish, a Colorado blade is your great option. You can fish Colorado blades from slow speeds to high speeds. They work a little better with a little bit of water pressure on them because they turn so wide. You need a little bit of speed to get them actually going. So I like to use them a little bit faster speeds. You know, that 1.4 and above. They're not really good at really, really slow speeds because you want them to turn to give that vibration, so we need a little bit of water pressure on them. Walleye anglers, you need to carry size, I would tell you size 3 to size 7. 5, 6s, and 7s are really popular in the Great Lakes. 3s, 4s, and 5s are popular in inland lakes where bait fish is a little bit smaller. Great imitator of shad, a great imitator of fat-bodied bait fish, and again, most vibration, least amount of flash. Colorado blade is probably the most popular and something you should definitely have in your selection. Okay, let's go to the other end of the blade spectrum. If Colorados are short and fat, then the next step to the far end, to the opposite end of the spectrum, would be a willow leaf. Willow leaves are very long and they're skinny. Because they're long and skinny, they move around the shaft very, very fast and very close to your fishing line, which means they give off a lot of flash, very little vibration. Great choice, again, if you're trying to draw fish from a long way away. If maybe you've got a little bit of stained water and you wanted to use flash to draw in fish as opposed to vibration, willow leaf is a great choice. Willow leaf is a great choice as you fish close to the bottom because they spin tighter to your line, which means that you can actually fish them at slower speeds. You need more water pressure to move a Colorado, less water pressure to move a willow leaf. So I can go slower, let's say a bottom bouncer, or if I really want to troll slow, I can actually put on a willow leaf blade. I'm going to get a lot of flash at a slow speed. Willow leaves, again, you need to have these in your box if you're a walleye angler, let's say size 3 to size 6. don't be afraid to fish a large willow leaf blade. They are something that catches a lot of fish, especially in the summertime when walleyes are deep and they're chasing long, skinny bait fish like smelt. Willow leaf blade is a great option. So make sure you've got some willow leaves in your box. Little bit of vibration, a lot of flash. They spin really close. They work great at slow speeds, and probably your best metal option choice if you're going to fish a blade on a bottom bouncer. Willow leaves are something you should have in your box every time you're on the water pulling crawler harnesses. Well, if I had to settle on one blade to fish every day, no matter where I went, I would settle in on the Indiana. The Indiana is a combination between the willow leaf and the Colorado. It's not as long and skinny as the willow leaf. It's not as short and fat as the Colorado. So we get middle of the road vibration, middle of the road flash. It's kind of a perfect compromise. I fish a lot of Indiana blades, one of my favorite. Now again, it's kind of a mid-speed blade. We really can't go as slow as we can with a willow leaf, and we can't go as fast as we can go pulling the Colorado. So we're kind of in the middle. Again, we're kind of compromising on middle of the road flash, middle of the road vibration, but something you should have in your box. I would tell you, I probably catch more fish when I'm pulling harnesses on Indianas than I do anything else because I use them a lot. They're one of my favorite blades to use. I carry them, again, size 3 to size 6 or size 7. I like the 4s, 5s, 6s, 7s in the Great Lakes, 3s, 4s, 5s. Fishing inland lakes, that seems to be a pretty common practice as we go through looking about blade size and stocking a blade box. But an Indiana is a great compromise. A little bit of flash, a little bit of vibration. Not as much vibration as a Colorado, but more flash. Not as much flash as a willow leaf, but more vibration. So right in the middle is the Indiana. A great choice if you're looking for an all-around blade. You just want to have a few blades in your box to kind of experiment with. The Indiana is a great place to kind of make a compromise and catch a lot of fish every time you're on the water. Okay, let's talk about 2 different metal blade options that I think you should know about. And one is called a hatchet blade. And it's basically a Colorado or an Indiana, actually. It's kind of chopped off a little bit, and we only get about 3/4 of it, 75% of it. Now, what that does is that makes this blade swing a little bit slower. So we get the same amount of vibration that we would get from an Indiana, but we get the same amount of flash that we would get from a willow leaf. It's kind of a compromise blade. They're really popular out in, a lot of guys, Minnesota, Wisconsin, fish hatchet blades in open water. It's one of those blades that when everything else is not working, sometimes a quick change to something I'm going to call off the wall can be a big difference. Hatchet blades are a great option. If you're looking for just a little bit different flash and a little bit different vibration pattern, guys, I can't stress enough that having these little off the wall options can make a difference. So make sure you've got some hatchet blades. I carry hatchet blades mostly in 4s, 5s, and 6s. I like the bigger ones because they do send out some vibration and some flash that's different than our 3 basic Indiana, willow, and Colorado. So make sure you've got some hatchet blades in your box. They're a great option close to the bottom, and in open water they work really, really well. Make sure you've got some of those. The next blade is an open water blade specifically. It creates a lot of flash, a lot of vibration, and it's called a chopper blade. So it has a thin top and a little bit wider bottom. What that does is that makes it spin at a little bit slower speeds, and it gets a lot of vibration like a Colorado, but it gives off a lot more flash than a Colorado, almost as much flash as a willow leaf. Now, these things don't seem like a big deal as I'm sitting here talking about them, but if you put blades in the water and you watch a Colorado spin and watch the flash, then you put a willow leaf and watch the flash, there's a big difference in how much flash is sent out. So you have to determine every day, do I need flash or vibration, and grab a blade that fits. This chopper blade gives you the ability to actually get the same amount of flash almost as a willow with just about the same vibration as a Colorado. It's a great option. It's something that we fished a lot on Saginaw Bay back in the early 2000s when the water was a little bit dirtier. You still got great vibration, but great flash. It was a great option to have. I would tell you, especially if you're a big water angler and you fish open water, Lake Erie, Saginaw Bay, Green Bay, you're trolling open water basins, grab a couple of these. Make sure you've got some chopper blades because some days they can make the difference between a few fish and a whole bunch of fish. All right, so the hatchet blade and the chopper blade, two metal options that you need to know about. And I would tell you, two blades that you should have in your box because it's just something different that the other anglers aren't doing that might catch you a few more fish. All right, I've mentioned a little bit about blade size. I want to stop for a minute and just kind of cover it in a little bit better detail. Blade size is important. Number one, obviously, smaller blades are going to give less vibration, less flash. Bigger blades, more vibration, more flash. The biggest thing is to match the size of the blade to the size of the bait fish that your fish you're catching are feeding on. Same as we do with crankbaits, right? If they're feeding on smelt, we want a long, skinny crankbait. If they're feeding on smelt and we're going to fish a spinner, we want a long, skinny Willowleaf blade, maybe a number 6 or a number 7 that's fairly long. If we're feeding on young of the year shad, and these shad are 2, 3, 4 inches long, we're going to want a Colorado blade, size 4, size 5, size 6. We're going to want to match blade size to the size of the bait fish that we're dealing with. That's number one. Number two, remember, Colorados give out a lot of vibration, and as the blade gets bigger, the vibration pattern, we get more vibration. It's thump, thump, thump. It's more thump. On the Willowleaf side, as we increase size, we're going to get more flash. So blade size is a function of matching bait fish or forage size, matching the thump profile or the sound profile I really, really want. How much sound do I really need to actually draw fish in? And or how much flash do I need to actually attract fish? So that's why you need to carry, I would tell you most walleye guys should have size 3 to size 7 in all of these different blades because that little bit of change in size is going to make a big difference. I have seen on the water days that a size 4 Colorado catches a bunch, put the same blade on a size 5 and your catch rate goes way down. And vice versa. Size 6s will catch a bunch, size 5s won't. So make sure you've got a good option of blade size, not just blade shape, but blade size in your box. Play with it every day. The fish are going to tell you what they want, but make sure that's one of the things that you're adjusting. I like to match it mostly to the forage size that I'm faced with. So if I got bigger forage, I'm going to fish bigger blades. Smaller forage, I'm going to fish smaller blades. That's kind of where I start. Adjust from there, and the fish will tell you every single day what blade size they want. Okay, let's end our conversation talking about finish and color. And those are two completely different things. The finish is usually on the back of the blade. Silver, gold, copper. It may be painted. It may be antifreeze. It may be chartreuse. It may be a painted finish, whatever that may be. The color of the blade is usually the front of the blade. So this here, let me show you this. So this would be a silver finish, and this would be a fluorescent green with pink dots would be the color, okay? This is going to be a gold finish, and this is going to be a, we call LV perch. It's a green with a orange and a kind of a perch stripe on it. That would be the color. So the finish is the base of the blade. The color is everything that we put on top of it. Both of those are important, right? Obviously, when you buy blades, make sure that you buy good blades. So let's talk about the finish. Make sure that your blades are coated with pure silver, pure gold, pure copper. That's important. If you buy a gold blade that is actually covered with brass, you're not going to get as much flash as you will with a blade that's actually coated with gold. Pay a little bit extra for quality blades. Make sure you've got silver, gold, and copper finish, not brass and not nickel. Those don't flash as much as real silver or real gold actually do. So pay a little bit extra for your blades. Look, you shouldn't go through a lot of blades. Most manufacturers sell blades in 3-packs. You can get a whole bunch of colors fairly inexpensively. Make sure you're buying a good blade to make sure that you've got the finish. All right, color. Let's talk about color. And again, it can be the whole spectrum. Again, I want to do two things with my color. Number one, I want to imitate the bait fish that the fish are feeding on. And number two, I want it to be visible to the fish. As I get closer to the bottom, I fish darker colors, perch colors, maybe some browns, maybe some blacks. Maybe I like some dark purples, those types of things. As I move up the water column, I'm going to imitate fish that have more flash, more greens, more blues, more purples, maybe a little bit of light chartreuse. And again, back to my color preference, I prefer blades that have somewhere on the blade one of our 4 favorite colors in open water, and that is prop: purple, red, orange, or pink. Every blade that I've designed for warrior lures has one of those 4 colors on it because I think they catch more fish. Pay attention to the color, pay attention to the finish. Now, here is a pro tip that I don't share with everybody. I have a good friend who is an absolute fantastic spinner fisherman. We fished together on Michigan Walleye Tour years and years ago, and I learned a ton about spinner fishing with him. This is a pro tip. If you are catching walleyes on the back hook, so they're hitting the back hook, they're hitting that treble hook that's on the back. They're coming in from the back, hitting the crawler from behind, or they start snipping at the back of the tail, but they're getting hooked on that back hook. Pay attention to the finish of your blade. The fish are coming from behind, and they're actually seeing what's on the back. They're not even seeing the color. They're just seeing what's on the back of the blade. If you're catching your walleyes on the front hook of the harness, that means they're coming from the front or the side. Pay attention to what colors are on the front and start making your adjustments there. So on the back hook of the harness, pay attention to the back of the blade. Front hook of the harness, pay attention to the front of the blade. Start working on those. You're going to catch a lot more fish than just randomly trying to guess. All right, so there you go. There's the color and the finish. Again, we can have lots of things in the book, but I like silvers, golds, coppers. Antifreeze have been another finish that I like a lot. And again, I like purple, red, orange, or pink somewhere on the front of the blade, but I'm trying to match basically the color of the bait fish that the fish are feeding on. You do that, you're going to end up with the right color and the right finish most days. Okay, there's a lot there to digest about something that most people don't pay enough attention to, and that's spinner blades. Next time you're on the water, make sure that you pay attention to your shape. Do you want a lot of vibration? Colorado. Do you want a lot of flash? That is a Willowleaf. Don't know? Crab in Indiana. You're in a bunch of fish. A lot of anglers are fishing. Something different, a hatchet or a chopper. Pick the right size. So experiment every day with size, shape, color, finish. Experiment with those things, and I promise you this year, you're going to catch a lot more fish every time you're pulling crawler harnesses if you pay just a little bit more attention to this tiny detail as the size, shape, color, and flash of your spinner blade. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. We'll see you back here next time at Teaching